Buy the dip. That is a common phrase that's going around right now. The market in Pokemon, when it comes to single cards, kind of going up and down over the past several months. A bit of a roller coaster. And there's a lot of cards right now that we're actually going to look at in today's video that are down 10, 15, 20% over the past month, like in demand cards. Cards that people want, cards that people are looking at. They saw this dramatic growth, and now it's falling apart. A lot of people calling it a crash. Don't think it's really a crash. More so a correction. More so people kind of filtering out of Pokemon a little bit, not paying as much attention to it, maybe focusing on other things right now. We talked about this a few weeks ago with the amount of people, the top 10% or so they're called, like who spend or are responsible for over 50% of the spend in the economy, and how that kind of translates to collectibles, even Pokemon cards. A lot of people you see at card shows, and the people who have like bigger bankrolls, vendors buying out other vendors, and it just seems like for the past year or so, like you have a lot of content that's recorded where vendors just go buy out other vendors and then list it at their booth, and then at the next card show, that vendor goes back and buys out that vendor or a different vendor. It's all over the place. But buying the dip is a very common phrase because you see these cards that are starting to really go down in price. Like I said, dropping 10, 15, 20% in some cases. And while it might be the time, it's really dependent on what your collection budget looks like and making a plan for how you want to pursue collecting Pokemon cards. Right now, I am collecting every single Pokemon card master set. It is a journey that I started in the summer. I'm 106 days in or something like that, 105 days in. And I want to accomplish every single Pokemon card master set, every unlimited version, every specialty set. I'm not worrying about promo sets, and I'm not worrying about first edition sets. And this is a goal that I want to accomplish by the end of 2026. And one of the comments that I get a lot is, how are you affording to do this? And it's really about planning. That's really what it boils down to. I have lists, I have spreadsheets, I have ideas of how to find the cards that I need, spend a certain amount on a weekly basis. I even have it broken down to like a daily basis of what I'm comfortable putting in. And that's really the way you need to go. You need to plan properly. I'm trading a ton whenever I can, just to try and get pieces that I need, and not buying everything at once, not overspending at once, and paying attention to the swings that we're looking at, because I would much rather spend, $10 on a reverse holo that I need from the EX era than $20 for that same card that I need from the EX era. So it's really about planning and looking at when things are trending in the right direction, which is what they are right now. But what's one thing that I really wanted to emphasize with this video is that we're closing in on Black Friday. We're closing in on Cyber Weekend, the weekend after Thanksgiving. And while now might be the time to start focusing on what you want to buy, I think now is the time to really plan on what you want to buy, not necessarily actually buy. You're looking at deals right now where, like I said, singles are dropping between 10 and 20% for a lot of different areas. But if you are a member of TCGPlayer, or you've joined TCGPlayer, like you just signed up for an account. You have an account. It doesn't have to be a seller account, but you've bought from them before. They have a deal on Cyber Weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, where you get 10% off. Well, 10% store credit, 10% cash back that you get to use for future purchases on TCGPlayer. So if you're already looking at singles that have dropped 10 to 20% over the past month, another 10% on top of that, where you get that in cash back for future spend, I think is really important. If you're a subscriber, it's 13%. So making your list right now, and I have no affiliation with TCGPlayer, but this is a sale that I look forward to every year, and I'm looking forward to it this year as I continue to plan out my master set chase. Make lists of what you want to buy, and we'll go over, like I said, 15 singles right now that have dropped between 10 and 20% over the past month. Maybe some of those are on your list. Maybe now is the time to start planning for what you want to buy in the near future. So let's go look at the numbers. Also, this is an entire master set of Pokemon's newest release, Phantasmal Flames. It's got everything in here, everything that you can pull from a booster pack. Every holo, every common, uncommon, even all the illustration rares and the special illustration rares, and even the mega hyper rare Charizard is right there. We're going to give this away to one lucky subscriber. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And then there is a video that you need to leave a like and a comment on. I'll put the thumbnail right up here, but I'll also link it in the description so it's easily accessible. So just subscribe, like, and comment on that video. Boom, you're entered. We're going to announce the winner on Friday, December 5th. There'll be a video that comes out. At the beginning of the video, I will announce the winner. Good luck. I wanted to start out with talking about this one, even though it's fairly new, but this shows a really good understanding of what manipulation looks like. Well, not necessarily manipulation, but FOMO, increased FOMO. So this is the gumshoes. This is from Mega Evolution, the first set in the Mega Block. So we just had Phantasmal Flames. Before that, we had gumshoes, and this card got pumped up a lot, along with a couple other cards in the set, like the Marshadow, and not really the Vulpix, but the Marshadow for sure. This gumshoes right here shot up to $29.45 after release. Now, we talked about this when Mega Evolution first came out, how pull rates have gotten better with the release of the Mega Evolution block. And this is the same thing. So we just talked about Phantasmal Flames releasing last weekend. This upcoming Friday, we'll talk about the price drops that Phantasmal Flames has experienced. There's a few illustration rares that are a little bit, not necessarily pricey, but a little bit higher. Not super crazy, but this gumshoes, for example, shot up like crazy, right? Almost $30 for this card, which was fairly easy to pull. Look at where it is now. Look at what has happened over the past 3 months. Now, I'm not saying that every card from Phantasmal Flames, every illustration rare is going to get to this point, but this is why patience is so important when it comes to the singles market, and not necessarily timing the singles market, but making sure that you come up with a proper plan in order to best suit your collection budget. So if we would have purchased this card, which we did right away because we needed to fulfill the Mega Evolution Master Set that we gave away, we paid $29.45 for it. I have not purchased the one for my own personal collection yet, my own personal Master Set yet, and now that it's $3.82, that looks a lot better than where it was. So it's just off of its low point. It's dropped 69% over the past couple of months, which is crazy, but that's partly due to like FOMO disappearing, whatever you want to say. Also kind of due to pull rates being a lot better than what people kind of expected. Like if you look at the Scarlet and Violet block, it was 3 illustration rares per booster box, so 1 out of every 12 packs. Now it's 4, so 1 out of every 9 packs, 1 out of every 8.5 packs. So illustration rares much easier to pull, and in a set like Phantasmal Flames, much smaller. The set size is much smaller. Only 13 illustration rares exist in the set, so you're going to start pulling them a lot more frequently than a set like Mega Evolution, where there was a lot more. So I want to start with that one first in case there was people who are waiting for this one. It has dropped, like I said, almost 69%. Here's the Bulbasaur, and I think it's also important to kind of pan out a little bit and look at how cards are performing over the past year. And this is the roller coaster that I'm talking about right here. So in November, when all of a sudden this buzz started with the Pokemon card community again, and a lot of people entered the community looking for ways to make money, we saw singles, we saw sealed, we saw everything just kind of shoot up through the roof. And that's why you have just gigantic gains, not just in price point, but in sales. November, December, even into January of 2025, and you can see this Bulbasaur jumped all the way up to $67.96. Then people started exiting the hobby or stopped buying as many singles, and you could see this Bulbasaur start falling on its face a little bit. Then we had it increase again in August, not necessarily because it was getting bought out, but just because the availability at those price points weren't there. So now that it's not getting replaced as quickly on the secondary market, it did end up jumping back up to about almost $65, but now it's retraced again. It's currently sitting at $54.66 and continuing to fall. So maybe one that you want to look out for over the next couple of weeks as we enter into that Black Friday deal, that Cyber Weekend deal on TCGPlayer. You can see it's dropped 15% over the past month and continuing to fall. Here's the Articuno right here from Journey Together. Very cool card. Again, Journey Together, a smaller set, especially when it comes to the illustration rare category. I don't remember exactly how many are in the set. This is a Scarlet and Violet era set, so pull rate's not quite as good as what we saw with the Mega Evolution block. This one is a very popular illustration rare, which is why it's a little bit more expensive, but you can see over the last 6 months, it's down 25%. It's down more than that, really, over the past month. If you see in September into October, it jumped up to $25.02. Now, it's still selling pretty much the same amount, just demand for it at that price point, at the new price point, isn't quite there as much, and it's a race to the bottom as people continue to sell off some of their singles, and now it's almost dropped to $16.49. That's a low point that this card has been at and continuing to fall. So another card you may want to look out for. Here's the Whale Lord right here. I posted on X about this being manipulated and bought out. Some people said, yeah, that is being manipulated. Some people said, no, Danny, it's not being bought out. Pretty clear that it was. In July of 2025, it was $12.56. This is another card from Journey Together. It's down about 32% over the past 6 months, but a lot more than that over the past 3 months because it did get bought out, hit $21.87. And then you can see that abnormal sales volume happen, wasn't able to keep up, fell apart, and now it's sitting at $12.94, which is basically the same point it was at in July when it was at its 6-month low of $12.56. So another card. It's a beautiful card, don't get me wrong, but again, Journey Together, a smaller set. Illustration rares 1 out of every 12 packs, meaning it's not very difficult to pull every illustration rare in Journey Together. And as more and more Journey Together pops up on the secondary market in collection boxes and things like that, there's going to be a lot more that continues to get opened and more Whale Lords that are going to hit the secondary market. Here's the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade. This one has gone through a bit of a roller coaster as well. You can see in December of 2024, it hit $104.22, fell apart in August, dropped all the way down to $48.76 before starting to take off again, like what we saw with that Bulbasaur. Closed in on $80, and now it's retraced back down. It's lost about 11% over the past month, a little bit more than that over the past few weeks. Now it's sitting at $61.90. So getting closer to that 1-year low or that all-time low or the lowest it's ever been at, which is definitely a point. You stack an additional 10% store credit back onto this. If you buy it, at $61.90, it's basically the equivalent of buying it at $56 because you're getting that extra $6, $55. You're getting that extra $6 in store credit on TCGPlayer. So getting closer and closer to that all-time low. Here's the Ghastly right here. This one did get pumped up a lot. It's gone through several different phases of being bought out. Very popular card, but it is really, really cool. It's got that Meowth in there, looking at all the different versions of Gengar, its evolution line. Down 23% over the past month. Even was able to kind of refrain from a heavier buying activity, not necessarily a buyout that happened on November 5th, but heavier buying activity. You also don't see any activity on November 4th, which makes me think that maybe they just combine those two together on one day. TCGPlayer often features some glitches here and there. So November of 2024, it was $27.73. We saw some giant growth. February, it hit about $60, fell back down in May to about 37, and then started climbing again, hit that all-time high a couple months ago, October, of $56 or $77.12. But it's lost a fair amount of that, right? It's lost 23%. Now it's sitting at $56.58. Another 10% off of that is going to be about $50. So definitely a time to start paying attention to some of these cards. Here's the Cleffa right here from Obsidian Flames. Over the past year, it's up 102%, doing extremely well, but down about 24% over the last month. Obsidian Flames, again, a very small set, so not a whole lot of illustration rares in Obsidian Flames, which makes the illustration rares a little bit more populated than what we'll see from different sets. February of 2025, this was sitting at $29.86. It's lost about half of its value. So it's sitting at $19.60 right now. You can see in September, it did jump back up to about $26, but now it's lost, again, 24% of that. So getting closer and closer to that 1-year low of $9.99. The Groudon's down about 12% over the last month. This is from Paradox Rift. In December of 2024, it had passed $100. It was at $109.18 before starting to retrace, and it almost fell all the way back to where it was in November of 2024 before this giant boom happened. It was at $62.05 in November. In August of 2025, it was at about $68. So it got about 10% higher than its 1-year low, which is very encouraging. Then started climbing back up. So if you would have bought it at that $68 mark, you would have been in pretty good shape, but then started climbing back up, hit about $93, $94. Now it's lost about 12% of that. So you can see down 12% over the past month, sitting at $83.82. 10% off of that on the Black Friday deals at TCGPlayer. That's going to be $75 as opposed to $83. So definitely a card that if you need for your collection to start paying attention to. The Squirtle from Twilight Masquerade down about 15% over the past month. You can see, again, a roller coaster ride like what it was with Bulbasaur. But you can see, if you look at the 1-year chart very, very downward trend as far as quantity of sales go, which shows less demand for a card like this, which is very interesting. November of 2024, it was at $49.14, jumped all the way up to about $84, $83 in February, and then it fell all the way back down almost to its one-year low in May, June, July, August. Like, it was all the way back down to about $50. So just above its one-year low of $49.19. Then it shot back up to an all-time high of $88.18, but now it's lost 15% of that, so it's sitting at $70.27. Still a little bit closer to its one-year high than its one-year low, but you take another 10% off of that on the Black Friday deals, and it's down to about $63, so getting closer and closer. Definitely a card that, we got another week until those Black Friday deals really start hitting, so you might see this card drop another couple bucks before then even. Here's the Ninetales from Obsidian Flame. Same story as the Cleffa, right? Small set. Again, very roller coaster ride over the past year. In February, it was at $34.70. Look where it fell to in May, all the way down to $15.10. So lower than where we were at before the boom started in Pokemon, which is very interesting to look at. Then started climbing back up again, hit about $32, and now it's lost about 30% over the past 3 months. Over the last month, it's lost 17.5%. So now it's sitting at $21.25, much closer to its one-year low than its one-year high. You add another 10% off of that, you're looking at about $13.5, and it might go down a little bit more over the next week. So another card that maybe you want to pay attention to if you need it for your Obsidian Flames Master Set. The Gloom, also from Obsidian Flames, is down over 25% over the past month. You can see in February of 2025, it was an $18.76 card. In May, it closed in on that one-year low of $7.21. Then it went back up to about $15, and now it's closing in on that one-year low again. So $10.95 is where it's currently sitting, still up about 37% on the year, but it's lost over 25% over the past month. You add another 10% off of that for the TCGPlayer deals, and you're looking at, a $9 card, basically, which is definitely encouraging. Here is the Team Rocket's Meowth from Destined Rivals. Destined Rivals, definitely a set that you want to start paying attention to now when it comes to singles, because packs are really starting to hit that secondary market. Even though we're not getting a whole lot more booster boxes right now, collection boxes all over the place are featuring Destined Rivals, which means a lot more singles are going to hit the secondary market because more and more of these packs are going to get opened. And here's the Team Rocket's Meowth kind of being a victim of more supply. So in September of 2025, it was at $38.24. You can see it's dropped 29.92% over the past 6 months. But if we were to pan in and look at just the last month of data, or 2 months of data, really from the middle of September when it was sitting at $38.24, I mean, it's lost about 40% of its value now over the past month and a half, sitting at $22.06. And it's a sub 20 card if you continue to add in the 10% deal on TCGPlayer. So definitely a card to start paying attention to. The Team Rocket's Houndoom also doing the same thing from Destined Rivals. This one has been on a steady decline really since May. It did shoot up at the end of September where it was at $24.22. That didn't last very long. Fell apart. Now it's sitting at $15.99. So down about 20% over the past 6 months, but even more than that over the past month and a half. Again, you're looking at almost a 40% drop over the past month and a half. And then again, add an additional 10% off of that. You're looking at about a $13.5, $14 card, which is pretty cool. Here's the Latios from Surging Sparks. This one in November of 2024, right when Surging Sparks came out, was at $45.44. Dipped and then started increasing as the popularity of Pokemon kind of hit that height, jumped back up to about that $45 mark. And then in May, it had fallen all the way down to $23.41. When we started seeing this boom again in August, it increased to about $35, but it's lost that. Now it's down 26.5% over the past month. It's sitting at $24.63, which is very close to its one-year low. You add in that additional 10% store credit, and it's below that one-year low. So very encouraging signs there. Here's the Clobbopus that was recently bought out. This one from Surging Sparks. Last year, it was sitting right around that $5 mark, and it was relatively flat. It did increase a little bit in February, and then you can see the buyout happen in September where it shot all the way up to about $23.82. Then it's fell back apart. So now it's sitting at $5.74. It's down about 40% over the past month. Way more than that if you pan out a little bit further and look at the last 2 months of data. Definitely a card that got manipulated a bit. It didn't work out. Look, you can see this giant sales chart again that happened a week ago where all of a sudden it sold 130 copies as opposed to the 10 that it normally sells.
So definitely a card to keep an eye on as we move closer and closer to Thanksgiving. And that's, I mean, there's a lot of other ones as well that you can kind of look at, special illustration rares. I'm going to be looking at just this giant list that I've made of cards that I need for master sets, trying to figure out the best time to buy which ones. And then that 10%, like I said, definitely factors in. You know, even though it's store credit, it's not necessarily cash back, or it's not necessarily an additional percentage off the actual list price. It's still 10% back that you can use on future purchases on TCGPlayer. So it's an encouraging deal when you factor it in with the dips that we're experiencing right now. Definitely a time to start paying attention and planning for the dip. So I wanted to put this content out there. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a long way for the algorithm, but ultimately, thank you just for being here. I love you guys. I'll talk to you again in a couple days. Till next time, peace.